Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Pitch Us. Super excited to have John Martin with us, sharing his business. My name is Tim Cooley. I am the author of the Pitch Deck book. We love having guests on the show, sharing their pitch decks so we can share with you all what most people are doing wrong and all the things that they're doing right. And so, John, thanks for being here. Please share your screen and pitch us.
Okay, so I'm John Martin. I'm the founder and CEO of Authentic Joinery, and we make furniture to order in days and not months. So let me tell you a little bit about it. This is our management and advisors team. There's me, long background in woodworking and furniture making. John Yoon is my co-founder and COO, VP of Marketing and Mercado Partners, VC firm here in Utah. And Brett Horn, advisor and founder of Parents Against Tipovers. He was a big help to us in designing our child-safe dresser that we have a prototype for as well. So how did we get here? So this is an example of prior work that I did way back in 2005. This is a bar and restaurant in Philadelphia. They have it still. You can see it. Website is kellystaproom.com if you're curious, see how it looks now. Hasn't really changed much. 2018, I was doing woodshop market research to see about the viability of founding a architectural woodworking company. 2018, when pandemic hit, pivoted from that to furniture because it seemed like there was a much bigger opportunity there based on the way things were going as far as supply chain and other issues. And then 2022, we kind of finalized it, defined what the market was, and fine-tuned the manufacturing process that we were going to need to make a difference. So what's the problem? Problem is furniture takes months and months to get. We've all experienced it. You know, you go in a store, no one's able to give you an exact lead time, and you can't order it the way you like. It is what it is, and you can take it or leave it. And as far as getting a major order goes, that's bordering on impossible. That's not something that stores offer. So if you want different drawers, different doors, you can't really get that. And then when you look anyway closely at furniture, there is a big issue as far as quality goes as well. So custom furniture that's anyway decent does take forever. Okay, and here's a timeline of what that looks like. So there's us. It takes us 14 days to make whatever it is you're looking for. So if you started on September 1st, you'd have your furniture in your home by the end of the month. And then if you look at some of the nationwide furniture stores and a couple of custom makers, whole different picture. Ethan Allen will take 12 weeks to deliver a custom piece to you. So from September, you'd have it before Christmas just. Beyond that, you're well into next year. Custom maker in Virginia would have it to you the end of December. And then for another national chain that is in every major metro area, you would be all the way out to the end of March to get one of their bedroom sets made and delivered to you. So we're going to fix that. When you walk in a store, like I did recently in one of the stores in the previous page, and take a look at what they got, you can see that there are some significant issues as far as quality goes. That's a $2,000 nightstand you're looking at there. And the top is lots of narrow little strips joined together, and the staining is blotchy and it's not well finished. Then the right-hand side, you've got kind of a less expensive entry-level option. Still some huge manufacturing flaws that are really easy to fix, but you know, no one seems to be that caring about it for some reason. So what does this mean? So what it means is it stalls and delays projects for interior designers and for the rest of us. It hurts customer satisfaction because people are waiting to get their projects done and their remodels done, and it's been taking longer than it has to just because they can't get your furniture in time. And it delays everybody getting paid. So it's a big issue. So what's the solution? That is premium major order furniture. So no sheet goods, engineered, no MDF, no flake board, just the actual wood. And then we offer many options for customization as well. Different doors, drawers, dimensions, especially the size you want, the color you want, the finish you want. And we do this with a 14-day lead time. So 2 weeks or less, it's going to ship to you. And that is an exceptional value proposition because it's not currently available in the furniture market out there. And then we're going to be based in the US from a supply chain standpoint because if you remember in the pandemic, the cost of a shipping container from the Far East to the US went from $2,500 to $25,000. in the space of a month or two. And that's a pricing shock that very, very few companies can deal with. So there's also a skilled and motivated workforce available as well in this country. So competition, what's that look like? So there's us on the left, 14-day lead time, premium product, and then our margins are better because we don't have as much labor in it to get it made. So we make a little bit more per unit. Comparable piece from another custom making company has a 16-week lead time, and their labor cost is higher. So it's not quite as much of a profit opportunity for them as it is for us. Exterior doors, same idea, same recurring theme. Our warranty is much, much better because our materials are better and our manufacturing process is better. Your typical door from a door manufacturer, and this one's in Utah, uses fasteners to put it together. It's not using joinery like what we do. And the warranty is nowhere near as good just because of the way it's made. So that's how we compare against the competition. As far as the market goes, addressable market for wood furniture in 23 is going to be 171 billion. A subset of that is the interior design firms market, 26 billion total revenue, 149,000 firms, and that equates to, it's actually equating to 175K revenue per firm. But for us, the furniture part of that, we estimate is going to be right around 36K per year. And that is an absolutely super conservative lowball number. It's going to be higher, but we just want to be safe. So our SAM then is 149,000 firms by 36,000 revenue is 5.4 billion. And then our obtainable market, we figure is going to be 2.5 times our capacity with a single shift. So that comes out at 54 million. And you can see what that looks like right there. Projection wise, your first year is 8 months revenue because you're waiting for your equipment and it's getting set up for your first 4 months. So you've got a 3-year projection there. Second shift is in it as well. Second shift shows double, but it's actually a bit more than that because not all of your costs translate over once you operate a second shift with the same equipment in the same building. So that's how that looks like. Traction wise, we've just begun in marketing and it looks really, really good so far. 44% email open rate, which is much, much better than what you'd expect. We have 6 customers that want us to notify when we start so they can buy from us. We have 2 confirmed customers with a confirmed spend between the 2 of them of 200K annual revenue. And that's from reaching out to only 0.2% of the interior design firms out there so far. And that's not counting all of the other parts of the furniture market that we're planning on reaching out to as well. So competitive advantages. 14-day lead time, super, super important. Much, much better and longer warranty. And we make to order, which means we are not carrying inventory. We don't have to store it. And we're not subject to the whims of how trends change, colors change. Doesn't affect us because we make everything right there and then to order. So we're not having to deal with that. We have some new products in the pipeline. Lightweight sofa, no tippy, safest dresser, and use a customizable furniture. So the safest dresser is a product that we have a prototype for. We got a video for that I can show you at the end if you wanted to. And the other 2 items are ready to go into prototype so we can see how they're going to look when we start to build them for production. Okay, our ask, we're pre-revenue, 45K already bootstrapped. Total cash ask is 8.7 million. Of that, 4.4 million would be what it would be with an equipment loan with a 75% loan to value. Could be debt, equity, safe note, convertible note, something else. This is our seed round, 2 to 3 year time frame, and an angel round would work as well. Use of funds, 2.5 million is going to go for equipment deposits. Our burn rate is 500K per month the first 4 months. So that gives you 2 million there. Equipment payment when your equipment ships rather, is 2.4 million. And then 1.8 million is your startup costs. So that's going to be fitting out your building, IT networking, hiring, training, final payments, and legal accounting and other costs to begin with. So our process runs at light speed. There's no legacy inertia built in. That's our killer advantage, and we can't wait to get started. So join with us in this exciting journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really, really interesting. Fascinating to listen to you speak. What I'd love to do is start off with things that I really enjoyed about the presentation. One, it's clear you know the space. Given your background, I love the team that you showed. I don't know those people, but I know those names or the brands, and so that's really, really good when you can connect with somebody who knows, like, for example, Mercado. I've known some people that work over there. I really liked your background. I liked you showing off some of the things that you've done. And then I really liked the examples you gave from the products that you create point of view, like that competition. I think I can help you clear those up a little bit, but otherwise, I thought the story was pretty good. It flowed really, really well. I think we can move some things around to help that as well, but otherwise, I thought it was pretty good as an overall. If this is your first pitch, which is probably is not, but if it is, it was a really good initial one. So with that being said, let's go through this like slide by slide, and let's make this cleaner. Let's go all the way back to the beginning.
Okay.
I don't know how we're gonna do that yet, but we'll figure it out. There we go.
Okay.
Okay. So one thing I would do is just remove any of the transitions. You don't need those fades. It's not a huge issue. It's just not needed. So just go from one thing to the next thing.
So no. Okay.
Yeah, because like this one fades into the next one, and then especially like if you have to bounce around back and forth, sometimes if someone's like, "Can you re-show me slide number 6?" Like kind of what we're doing here, then they have to load and do all that stuff. So just I think it's better just to not have them.
Yeah.
Okay. In days, not months. I like this. One thing I really, really recommend, I think once we give you some ideas, is actually go out and hire somebody to make this look better. I know it's pre-seed, but I think this is kind of a brand play. Like you're trying to sell high-end or high-end-ish furniture, and the deck needs to kind of represent that as well.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like, because we have like the logo here, and if it was embossed in wood or something that just kind of spoke to creating furniture from the very beginning. I think that's kind of right. We're looking at something like, yeah, I think talking to somebody, and Fiverr is a great source for that. All right, go to the next slide, please. Okay. I really like this. This is a really great way to start, especially because you're talking later about the safety part of furniture. I wouldn't change this. A lot of people can put the team slide at the end, but I think it makes a ton of sense in this case to put it up at the beginning. And that's an argument for anybody out there where to put the team slide. This worked really, really well to have at the beginning.
Great.
Okay, so move forward to the next slide. Okay, so I wanted more from this background slide, and I think this might get to that visual element. For example, I'm not sure what architectural woodwork means.
Okay, got
right?
it. Yeah.
So prior work, I love that. You could break this into a couple different slides. Like you could say 2018, I built really cool things. 2020, I moved into this arena. 2022, now we're doing manufacturing processes. And you can walk me through visually. And this is one of those things where people are like, well, I only need 10 slides. And it's like, that's not really true. You need enough slides to get the point across. And this one didn't do that for me. The content's there. I think just adding that like visual element, you could do a couple different things here. If you like this flow, and again, work with a graphic designer, you could highlight 2018 and what you did. You could gray out that one and then move to 2020 and change the image. You could, things like that. That would give me like that progression as you're clicking through the slides. And I still get that feel of things moving forward. So that's a way of using 3 slides to tell one story.
Okay. I went from 47 slides to this. So this
very
is
impressed.
Big improvement on what it was, So
how did you get down to this? Like what was the the catalyst?
So I had pretty much every point on its own slide. I had the team members
Oh,
on their own slide. The bullet points that I have later on, I had almost each of them with an explainer on its own slide,
oh,
and it felt like it ran forever. So I
yeah.
sat down
No,
with this over a day or two
this
and
was a good amount of
condensed.
time. You want to be in between like 10 and 12 minutes usually.
Yeah.
So I thought you did a good job there.
Okay.
Okay. So here's the where I think we can really help this. Now what I want you to go to the next slide. Okay. So what you're trying to do is here's what I learned. This is the phrasing I think would help get to this problem statement. So over the last 5 years, I did this, I did this, I did this. Let me tell you what I learned about the industry or the problems with the industry, right? And that transition, you were like, oh, the problems. Like that's what you said. But that little word of like, let me tell you about the problems that I learned in manufacturing or in furniture development or whatever the phrase is, will get us smoothly into this slide. I think you can bring in some of those pictures you have, right? So I think let me tell you how I would do this a little bit differently. I would break this into segments and then tell me a problem about segments. Speed,
Okay.
furniture that's made quickly lacks quality,
Correct.
right? You can show that you have that picture, right? So it's like it has the function, but it's really poor quality. And show me that picture, right? If it's made to order, it tends to take a really long time. And you have that slide in here as well. And I think you can pull each one of these moments out and add a visual element to that. So we have takes months to get, few timely made to order. Yeah. So your other option is if you want a higher-ish quality, then you go with what's already made, right?
Okay.
So that's one way of. Does that make? Am I making sense? I think bringing those
You
out.
are. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And
Um,
ironically, I had it this way and I thought it ran too long. So I condensed it to what you're seeing now.
Oh yeah, the pieces are here. I think just stating them a little bit differently, and
Okay.
everybody knows this, right? So
Yeah.
you're not really teaching us anything new. You're just reminding. It's like, look, if you want something that's made quick, it usually comes out really poor. Your middle option is these like poor-ish, like a not IKEA is okay, but like it doesn't really solve the need of you wanting something custom. And if you really want something custom, it takes, 16 to 36 weeks.
Okay.
Move into your next slide. And what I would start to do here is you want to start to transition to who the buyer is right now, right? So if I want it, I'm just a consumer, but this is a real problem for industrial designer people, right? Their clients want these things really, really quickly, and their lead times, they don't have 26 weeks. I don't know how we do that yet. We'd have to see that and play with it. But like that is who your first buyer is, right?
So this
Ish.
presentation is tailored towards the interior design market
Mm-hmm.
um, to begin with, because that's where the greatest pain is as far as lead times go and as far as quality goes.
Yeah.
And that's what we're fixing specifically. So, believe it or not, a lot of designers will go to retail stores because retail stores give designers a discount to buy furniture there.
Yeah.
So designers will go to any of these companies you're seeing in front of you and get a percentage off. So the point that I now realize I'm not making properly is that by them having to do that and seeing what I'm showing, they can't get what they want and they can't get it custom. And I'm not enunciating that problem anywhere near well enough. And I get that now.
Yeah. So let's frame this like so one thing that I noticed for industrial designers is this. And I think that would get us we now know who the buyer is. The issues with the furniture are still the same. You're like for one, their buyers don't want to wait 26 weeks for furniture. Step 2 is if they go get something off the rack, it's either going to be poor quality or not custom like they want. And then problem number 3 is they're overpaying for stuff when they don't need to, right? Something along those lines. And again, I think that would tie this in really, really well. Okay.
So should I leave that timeline the way it is or just add to it in a separate slide?
So I think that you can just pull out, you don't really need the 12 to 16 weeks. You can just use up to 26 weeks or longer because you're going to come back to these data points later.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So you can clean up
Yeah.
all of that stuff. And
Okay.
then and I would not put your timeline on here yet because we're only talking about problems,
Got it. Okay.
right? So the problems
Right.
that designers, their clients don't want to wait 26 weeks. The other option is they go to an Ashley Furniture. They're not really getting what they want. And sometimes they have to settle on lesser quality. I mean, that's really
Got it.
what you want to wrap
Yep.
up.
Yep.
Okay. So now let's go into the solution. So go to the next slide. Yeah, you can show that in that same conversation and then move forward. Okay. So yeah, so see you started doing that here. There's customer satisfaction goes down. There's huge delays. These are all their problems that you're
Right.
going to solve. Okay,
Yep.
now let's move forward. Okay, perfect. So now the solution is premium made to order. It's really quick. And then supply chain. Again, for the interior designers, they love us because of these three things.
Okay.
Right. Now you can, and yeah. And what I would do here too, one thing that you didn't tell me is what you're starting to build first. Because you mentioned you're going to bring in, I'm just going to make up something, couches and beds later, but I don't know what you're building to, or you're planning to start with building.
So my outreach is ongoing, and what I was planning to do was build a kind of early adopter list and make what they want to make, what they want me to make first,
Uh-huh.
and then go from there with your typical marketing and CRM. But the people I'm reaching out to now are going to get to be first. I'm going to get to, influence what I'm doing a little bit. And but yeah, I didn't mention that, so that's a good point. I might want to tag that some way that what I'm making first is what the early adopters, the people who sign up first, are going to need. So is that what you're driving at?
Yeah, but I would just say like, these are the big things and we're starting with these three items because these
Okay.
are the most popular things that we've learned through our research. And
Okay.
you can leave it at that. I don't really need any more detail.
Okay.
Right. So then if we go to the next slide. Perfect. Okay. So I want to move this slide down. So again, so this is the first time I've seen like a chest or whatever that's called.
Sideboard.
Yeah. Okay. Sideboard. Okay. So this is the first time we're talking about competition. Let's again, if this is the first thing you're starting with, that's cool. Now I have a frame of reference for later, but I
Yep.
want to get into the numbers, right? So you're gonna say, for example, let's say you did that thing. Let's just pick that thing for right now. You're like, our average price for something like this is $3,900, and then you list those three things out. Now I have a framework for just what the business, not the business, the business model. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? You're just rooting
Yeah.
me real quick. It's like this costs $100. This is 600. That's 9,000. And then I'm like, cool. All right. Then we want to go into like your business model. So the forecast that you had.
Okay. So you want me to move this competition slide? Now I've got two of them. I got this one and the door one together here. You want me to
Yeah.
put them somewhere else in the flow?
Yeah. We're going to put them down some. I'll tell you where we're going to get back to them.
Okay. Fine.
So let's get into the numbers real quick, like the business model. So here's our three things. They cost on average around this much. So go to the next one. Next one. Next one. Okay. So this chart here, I would either do one of two things. Just make this a really simple. I like your chart down here that explains what these numbers mean. What I'm looking we see a lot of these, right?
Yeah.
And so what I want to see is year 1, year 2, year 3, and then just keep the total revenue. You have three. What this looks like to me is Oh, I see. Second shift. What does second shift revenue mean?
So that's from a scaling standpoint. So if you have a factory, you run an 8-hour shift, and that gives you your revenue in the first of the 3 column groups. If you can run a second 8-hour shift in the same plant with the same equipment and double everything up even more so. So that's what that means. So if you want to scale,
Oh.
right?
Yep. Okay. I
So
have an
so if you
idea
want to
here.
scale, it's super easy, and you've got zero outlay for equipment or new premises or any of that.
Okay. So I have an idea here. I would expand on the revenue in 3 years, pull that one out. And then what I would do is, so I don't know if you can see me or anything, but
I can't see it.
okay. So I would do a stacked bar chart. Revenue on the bottom is year one, shift one. And then I would do like a dotted stacked one for shift two. What's the increase if you ran 2 shifts? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then this would be a much easier to see than having 3 different things to look at.
Okay.
In this case, it's 4. It's 4 times 3, so 12. I think that would get to what you're trying to say. And it's like, look, here's what we do if we just run shift. If we ran 2, you could see the difference over time, right? And
Okay.
you could just do like a dotted or make the color lighter or something like that, but do a stacked bar chart. Underneath this, what I would also add from a KPI point of view per year is number of units sold.
Okay.
Or you could also add like number of interior design firms you're working with. Those KPIs, I can sit back and say, okay, so year 1, you're going to work with 100. Then I'm going to be like, oh, that actually kind of makes sense with your background and things that you've done already, right? Or if you're like, we have 3 and we're going to hit $60 million in revenue, I'd be like, well, like,
Yeah.
they might be real good, but I don't know if I believe that.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Okay. So I would put this. So real quick, how much those units cost. Then this chart here, like we talked about, with some other KPIs in there. And then I would go into the market numbers. So if you want to go back up or left, whatever. Okay. So I don't know if you really need this one. I think you can condense this slide into a bullet point on the next slide.
Okay. So get rid of this.
Yeah, because you can just say like, look, and you're talking about like custom furniture growth, not wood furniture as a whole. Maybe I don't know if that's what this number is.
So that is just the furniture that's primarily wood,
Oh,
revenue wise, in the US.
okay. Yeah, so I would just do a growth metrics if you like this. I don't like that 171 doesn't do anything to me. The next number on the next slide is really what I'm interested in, is who you're going after.
Yeah.
So I would pull out this 149,000 design firms, right? And then if you're saying on average we think that they're worth $70,000 for us, or 60, whatever this number, 36.
36.
Yeah, those 2 numbers are really all I need to know. And
Okay.
then if you multiply that out, it's like it's $5 billion. Now moving to the next slide. You could do that exact same thing here. And then if you wanted, you need to call. So I'd get rid of the TAM and the SAM as far as like on the left hand side here.
Okay.
Put that math that you did, because that's now the SAM.
Okay.
Oh, I see what you did. You're trying to explain these numbers. The one
Yeah.
that we don't know is, how did you get to the 54 million?
Right. So that's 2.5 times capacity with a single shift. So if you can scale to 2 shifts, right, and then add 50% as you get more efficient in your first 18 months, that gets you to 54 million.
Okay. So one thing that I would look into here is, so if we looked at the total market as 54 billion, which represents that 170,000 groups, what percent of the groups do we think that we're actually targeting of these design firms?
So um, it should take you. You should be able to get to production capacity, targeting about 5% of the total designers out there. Now, when you actually get to do that in reality from a marketing standpoint, you're going to want to reach about 24% of all of the interior designers in order to be able to get to capacity. So it depends on what your perspective is. The 54 million I thought was reasonable because you're going to scale, right?
Mhm.
So if you're going to scale, that's 2 shifts. And then you've got half as much again as you get more efficient. So when I was reading to try and figure out what your SOM was for a pre-revenue manufacturing startup, this was the best way I could find that to explain it. That it was essentially a judgment call based on the information that you have that's realistic and you can justify. So uh,
Yeah,
I
I like
don't know
that.
what you want to tell me about that.
So here's how I think this might help. This is put this in frame of reference of things we already know. So it's 170,000 agencies or firms,
Yeah.
represents 5.4 billion buying furniture. If we hit capacity, that represents roughly what 30,000 firms, or that's way less than that. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like put it in reference of something else, because those two numbers represent completely different things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you want to tie the calculation together and make it flow.
Yep. So that's why I say, going back to that financial forecast, it's like we've got 10 agencies, we've got 80, we've got 6,000, and then now we're tying it to this slide as well. It's like, look, there's 170,000. So for us to get to like 200 is very reasonable over some period of time.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So keep this focus on agencies. It's like agencies time 40,000. And that's how all these numbers come together, even though you know that your 54 million's capacity, and you could even like call that out on this slide. Like, look, we need another factory if we hit this number. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So now we want to get into what you with competition. I think this is a really good time. So look, we've just told you about the market. Let me tell you about what other people are doing versus us. And so you can really see the differences that are going on here. Caveat, test this one out, because it could work right after you show your examples. Say, look, here's our price, here's theirs. I think it could work both directions. It might work better the way that you did it, but you'd have to test that story.
So A/B testing for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's a group in most cities. It's called 1 Million Cups. Great
Yeah.
place to test these kinds of things out. So yeah, so test that in both locations. See which one feels better to you. But you're like, look, we sell for 3,900. We make good money on it. This is a comparable one. Let me show you our other product. Same thing. And now people are like, oh, cool. I see the difference. And then flow into those other numbers. Might work. Test out both.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, so moving forward, now traction. Okay. So what I want to see here is because you're asking for a lot of money, and we are in an ecosystem right now where people want to see sales. So angel investors and everybody right now is like, what have you done so far? And so this is one area I think that you need to figure out a way to sound bigger than you already are, right? And I don't have the answer for you right here.
So looking at this, I could phrase it differently because I should be highlighting the $200,000 rather than the 2 customers part.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because now you're saying, and somehow I would do tie this back. Are these 2 industrial design firms?
These are 2. One of them is what's called a multi-line supplier. So they're a one-stop shop for designers. So designers can go there for the lighting, the furniture, the couches, the rugs, the whatever, right? And then the other customer is an actual designer. So between the 2 of them, taking the middle of the range they gave me, you're at $200,000 in revenue just between those 2 per
Okay.
year.
Okay. And so what I would do is maybe even break this out as like, look, here's potentially client number 1, I don't know if you can show the logo. Here's what they do. Here's how we fit into it. They're worth about $80,000 a year. Here's customer number 2. Here's what they're doing. And so now you're like, oh, that's a pretty big client, and they could scale up to be worth $1 million a year to us.
They will, for sure.
Yeah. So I would say what they've agreed to and where they could go on both of those.
Okay.
Because again, it's like, look, you're looking for 8 million and you're going to get 200K in year 1. And you're like, whoa, that's a big lift, right? So if you're like, well, look, this guy's worth potentially $500,000 a year, and this guy by itself is worth at least $6 million a year over the next 3 years, then you're like, well, seems like a fairly decent payback. Oh, and by the way, we're planning on getting 10 more of these, right?
Right. And bear in mind, there's 149,000 designers, and this is only reaching out to 300 of those.
Right.
Is all I've gotten to do so far, which is 0.2% of your total, right? So when you multiply that up, it makes sense real quick.
Yeah. And you build traction with the 2 you have. Those other 300 might come back into the conversation. Right. So I would say that I think that's your story. Is look, we were just testing the market, reach out to 300 people. Here's what the value is of only 2 of those people coming as long term. I think that might tell this story a little bit better.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
All right. So traction, and then next is what do you plan? So milestones, like what do you plan to do with the money? I don't think we saw that slide.
Sure.
Okay, so this is use of funds, but I want to know, like, we plan to do this, and then this, and then this. So it's step 1 is build out manufacturing. Step 2 is to whatever.
How is that different to this?
Equipment payment. It's just more timeline driven than like bulk. So for example, like 4 months burn rate doesn't really mean anything from a milestone point of view.
It's a factor because the equipment is very specialized and takes forever to get here. Most of it comes from Germany. So for that 4 months, you've got 500K a month while you're not producing revenue, but while you're training and fitting out your building and doing everything else. So
yeah, so that's a true statement. I'm just trying to say, like, these just aren't milestones. Equipment payment. Is everything being lended on, or what's the 2.5 million by you?
The 2.5 million is your deposit for the equipment, because almost all of it's coming from one supplier. So to get it started and get it made, because a lot of it's made custom for the application. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you got to put down a 50% deposit or so in order to get the ordering process started. So that's what equipment deposits is.
Okay. And then what's the timeline for this funding?
The timeline to get it, or the timeline to spend it?
To spend it.
4 months.
All of this is in 4 months?
Yeah.
You're going to spend 8.7 million in 4 months?
Yeah.
Okay. How much? So, okay. How much money is needed do you need to actually get like a piece of furniture out the door?
So that number you're looking at gets you everything you need to start. It gets you wood for inventory. It'll be all your marketing will be done. You'll have customers. In order to get a piece of furniture out the door, you need to get the equipment that talks about. And I have a list of what that equipment is. But you've got everything you need then. So you can start making as soon as you have sufficient equipment to do it. Mm-hmm. If that answers the question.
Yeah. Okay. So typically you raise for like 12 months of operational capital, right? So even if I just don't understand how this works. So what's the 2 million on the 4 month burn rate? What does that
So for your first 4 months, you'll be hiring people, you'll have bills, you'll have a building to pay for. So your burn rate is going to be 500K a month for the first 4 months while you have no revenue. So that's what that 2 million is.
Okay. And then, but then what are you going to do with the next 500,000 for the next year?
So
If your
By the
burn rate,
time,
you see what I'm saying?
so yeah, but by the time day one of month 5 comes around, you'll have customers and you'll be already producing, because as your equipment arrives, you commission it and you build it into your production line, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you're starting on day one of month 5, but that's the end of a soft ramp up, if you know what I mean. That's not just kind of a hard cutoff where you haven't been making anything before and you suddenly start on day one of month 5. You've been ramping up to this for the previous 3 or 4 weeks, right? So
Yeah.
what you'll have at that point is you'll already have the wood to build furniture. You'll already be building orders. You might not be building them as quick as you can when you've got all your equipment there, but you'll be able to make pieces during month 4. You're not just kind of sitting doing nothing while when you're waiting for absolutely everything to get there, because you can start to make without having it all. You just can't make it as fast.
Yeah.
So that's what you're looking at there. That 8.7 gets you everything you need to be able to start on day one of month 5 and be generating revenue and be selling. You'll actually be selling pieces in month 4.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But how much? But let's say that's true. You'll be at $0 in revenue, hypothetically speaking, at month 5 with a $500,000 a month burn rate.
So in the 4 months, you'll have a meaningful marketing campaign going to add to and supplement what I've done so far with actual budgets and actual marketers. So you'll have orders and revenue from month 5, day 1,
Okay.
because you'll have built on the interior design marketing effort and the other prongs, the other pillars of your marketing effort as well, which is stores that sell furniture, which is the likes of Restoration Hardware, which is the likes of Ethan Allen, right? You'll be selling to them. You'll be selling to companies like Touch of Modern. You'll have all that done in the space of your 4 months. So you'll have an order bank to start with on month 5, day 1, and you'll have the lumber to do it and the trained staff to do it. So day 1, month 5, or a few weeks before that, you'll be generating revenue. So you're not starting with on day 1, month 5 with 0 revenue and 0 means to generate any revenue. That's not quite how that goes.
Okay. So what I would do is think about this from a 12-month perspective.
Okay.
So you might need, if that's the case, my argument was you might need more money, right? Something's not going to work out. Your machine's not going to show up when you need to show up. Some guy cancels a huge $1 million order. Like something's going to happen. So I would think about that long term. At least 12 to 18 months is a typical raise round for that very reason, or for some major inflection point. Go to the next slide. Okay. So a personal thing that I like to see is all of these elements on one slide. So the ask, the use of funds, and then all your contact information all on one slide. And the reason for that is if we're talking numbers and doing like what we're doing right now, I'm asking you questions, then that slide gets the most airtime. I like the size of the font you're using here. It's really big, which is awesome. But I think that last slide is such an impactful slide that you want to put all of this information in one digestible way at the very end of the slide.
Okay.
Right. So like, look, we're making furniture faster. Here's our logo. We're raising 8.7 million. And then this is what we're going to do with that money, all on one slide.
Okay. All right.
There you go. Awesome. This was awesome. I really appreciate you being here. Any other questions for me?
So, it sounds like you don't feel the material in itself is terrible, but the flow could use work.
Yeah, you got the pieces here for sure. Some of those other ones that I think we could add, right? Like how much your furniture costs, what are the first things you're starting with, those kinds of things. Even though it is custom, I get that. Like, but here's the first 3 things, and we're
Right.
adding things all the time.
Well, that's the thing. It is custom. It'll be whatever someone tells me they want to make, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, we'll have an online catalog with a basic, or not a basic, but a typical representation of what people buy and what people want. But if the one, on our website is made of ash and you want it in cherry and you want it sized differently, you just tell it what size you want and you can get it in your 14-day lead time.
Mhm.
So, you know, um, that's a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
it, it really is, when you can get to and operate a completely custom model successfully, which is what we'll be able to do.
Right. One thing that I might add in this deck is like in maybe either an appendix is like the outlook of other furniture companies, right? Like what do their margins look like? What does that look like? Because this is kind of one of those things where it's like this industry is very well known, furniture is well known. But if you can say like, look, here's a similar company, here's what they did over the last, since inception,
Yeah,
and we have better margins than them. And I think if you can show that either in an appendix, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't know the furniture market, you know,
yeah,
that might be another really beneficial slide that says, look, furniture works. If it works, it works. And that it is true. If furniture works, it works. Um,
right.
so think about that as well, because again, for me, if I were to say like, if this was me judging it as an angel investor, I'd like, look, I think you're going to need probably $10 million. That's way beyond what I do. But like if I was a fund and I was like, into something that has long-term value, and you're like, look, this totally makes sense. It hits us from more of a private equity type thing
Yeah,
as a long-term play, then 10 million makes sense, because we already know that if this works out, a company like this could sell for, 100 million in 6 years,
and
makes
there's your
very,
exit. Yeah,
very, very different story. And you have all the assets, right? You have all the machinery, the
yeah,
building, all that stuff, right? So think about that, who the audience is from the investment side, like Mercado, right? They do bigger checks, but they also
yeah.
come in way later, right?
Yes, they do. They're not early stage.
Yeah, they don't do early stage, right? Um, so yeah. Any other questions?
Um, I don't think so. I'm dying to hear what you think overall. So,
Yeah, overall, this is something I think it's really interesting. You know, I'll be honest. I would love to know. I mean, I'll follow your story. I'll follow you on LinkedIn or whatever. But I would love to know how the funding of this goes, because this is a capital intensive beginning. But if you get those deals lined up, it just makes money. It's a long term play. And what I see is, from an angel point of view, a lot of people don't get into companies like this, and I don't know why, other than it's like it just feels like a lot of money. You know what I mean?
right. Well, I mean, 2/3 of it is asset based. You
Right.
know, you you can walk in and see where almost 6 million of this went, and it's sitting on your production floor.
Right.
So, that's got to give comfort to somebody who just wrote a check for $5 million for a couple of screenfuls of code.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Right.
you know,
Right. Right. But they also said, okay, well, what could you do with 250K? And they're like, look at what he did. Right. It is just very different. You need a machine. Like, you need a machine.
right. And I get asked that all the time, well, why can't you start small and build up? And if you do that, you've got inertia built into your whole production process. That's
Right.
what everyone's proud of doing. And it took them 15 years to get there.
Yeah.
And they're still dealing with all of the inefficiency and all of the inertia that they've built up and maintained over that whole time frame. This gets you from 0 to 100 miles an hour overnight. And that's the difference.
Well, 4 months.
Yeah, 4 months. Yeah,
Just kidding.
correct. Yes.
Yeah, no, let's do this. We'll connect offline. This is obviously live and we're filming. So let me wrap it up here, and we'll keep chatting. But thanks everybody for watching. If you guys are out there looking for help, please apply at pitchus.io. We love doing this. I think this is really fun. I hope people learn something. And again, John, thanks for being here. This was awesome.
Okay. Great to be here.